Welcome back to This Is Live, the Sunday talk show, here on the Arise News channel. The security of lives and property, as well as protection of the fundamental rights of the citizens, as enshrined in the Constitution, remains the defining point of government social contract with the people. To what extent have successive Nigerian governments, military or civilian, been able to discharge this onerous responsibility? Things took a turn for the worse with the emergence of banditry and terrorism on the upper reaches of Nigeria, which has now spread to practically the rest of the country. Group Captain Sadeeq Shehu is a retired Air Force intelligence officer. He joins me now to take a closer look at the issue of insecurity in Nigeria. Good to see you again, Group Captain Sadeeq Shehu. Thank you very much for joining me on This Is Live. Quickly, where did we get it wrong?
Good afternoon and happy Independence Day celebration.
Once upon a time in this country, people used to sleep with their eyes closed. We didn't have all these walled gates that we have around communities, burglary proof, because nobody thought nobody will attack them. But now in Nigeria, people sleep with two eyes open. In fact, they don't sleep at all, because they are not sure they will not be kidnapped or attacked. And when they go onto the streets, they leave home in the morning, they are not sure they will return home. Where did we get it wrong?
Well, thank you very much. Over the years, Nigeria, like any country, has gone through several evolutions. Evolutions through increase in population, increase in urbanization, increase in globalization. What do I mean by globalization? Even, what happens in other countries in terms of crime, banditry, or terrorism, it has a way of crossing around borders, so that what happens in country A, somebody in country B would try to copy or even improve on the modus operandi that was used in the originating country. So we have had all these challenges, increase in youths that do not have work. But what we saw is that our security architecture has not evolved pari passu with these changes in the community. In those days, if we would recall, a single police constable could enter into a village of 500 or 1,000 people and arrest 10 lawbreakers, only him, and say, follow me, and then they will follow him. But obviously, this is no longer the time, because now the modern policeman of today, he even has to think before he could enter certain communities. And even the ways, the people used to perpetrate the crimes has also changed. The means of perpetrating the crimes has changed. Before, the only person you would see with a firearm is either a military man or a policeman. But now we have people awash with firearms, which is, I could say, almost a great leveler between the non-state actors and the state security. But over these years, with all these changes, our security architecture has not changed. We did not have, a concomitant increase in our security forces, in their equipment, and all other things. So definitely, you will see what was happening is that the security challenges is threatening to overwhelm the security structure that we have in place.
Crew Captain Sadeeq.
It is not again saying the fact that in terms of whether military or police or intelligence agencies, we do not have enough numbers, we do not have enough capacity to match the security challenges we're having.
Group Captain Sadeeq Shehu, somehow this sounds like deja vu to me. I've had all of these explanations before. No increase in equipment, no enough personnel, we don't have enough policemen, we don't have enough this, enough that. Well, this morning, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu addressed the nation. And one of the points he made was that the safety and the security of the average Nigerian is a major priority for him. Okay, what else can he do? All this talk about security architecture, equipment, personnel, we have had all of that before. So what is the new thing that can be done to secure this environment?
Well,
Okay.
without making excuses for the new government, he is 100 days plus on the seat, and there's no gainsaying. He inherited a bad security situation. So I could say, being pragmatic, that we can still give him some time to see what is contained in the New Hope agenda in terms of security. Theoretically, how long will he have to put it in actual, implementation? There are good, he talks about supporting the security. He talks about reforming the security. Reform is very important because there is this concept, they said form dictates function. That means whatever you are going to do, whatever instrument, the form, the shape, the organization has to be in concordance with what you want it to do. So I am excited that he talks about reform. I'm excited he talks about increased support for the security. All these things are there, but we still have to wait to see. And with due respect, I have to say he doesn't have much time to put those provisions in the plan into action. We are yet to see that, but we hope he's also aware of that, and then we'll see in practical terms how that security agenda is going to be put into implementation.
Okay, let me piggyback on your point about time. Let's give him some time. This is the same thing that this same government has been saying to the Nigerian Labour Congress, that is threatening to go on a total and indefinite strike on October 3, Tuesday. Give us some time. Give us some time. How much time? Because Nigerians are impatient. Some people say, oh, the time they are asking for is 8 years. 4 years, they've done a little over 100 days. They are already asking for 8 years to give them some time. How much time should we give them before we begin to see difference in terms of thinking, in terms of approach, in terms of results?
Okay. Certainly, even though we celebrate 100 days, which is something of convention or tradition, 100 days is too little, to gauge whether a government is doing well or not doing well. However, between time that is too little and time that is too much, as reasonable human beings, we can conclude to say that after probably a year, we can know why this regime come out, the indices it made in terms of security, and where it is taking us at the end of 1 year. I think by 1 year, we should be able to gauge whether the Tinubu administration was strike. However, that is not to say we will not be measuring, we will not be evaluating month, quarter by quarter until we reach that 1 year timeline. But if you ask me, I will say 1 year is reasonable to see whether the Tinubu administration is going to improve on what it inherited in terms of security. I want to confine myself to security, which is my terrain. I don't want to delve into the labor issues.
Well, Group Captain, is there a connection between the insecurity in the land and poverty? Let me ask you. Because poverty seems to be the major challenge right now. People cannot buy fuel. They cannot move
Definitely.
around. They don't feel secure. So what should the government do about poverty? Because the pauperization of the average Nigerian, who will now have the opportunity of the average low-grade worker being given 25,000 naira for the next 6 months. Do you think that will solve the problem? Because that's one of the planks of the president's speech this morning to Nigerians.
Definitely poverty and unemployment. Remember at the beginning I spoke of teeming youths, which is something that has changed without work. Unfortunately again now, what we are seeing, apart from the sort or the fortune of those that do not have work, the teeming youths, we are seeing a gradual encouragement of the take-home pay of the average Nigerian worker. So much so that if you ask me, I would say sometimes the difference between the low-earning worker and the person who is not working, there is almost no difference. Because if somebody is working and then what he's taking home cannot be able to pay his rent, take his children to school, even bring him to office, because it is like we saw in the in the problem with the Minister of Works. The truth is that since the increase of this fuel, everybody knows, even though we don't want to admit, that many workers do not even go to work. Or they go on alternate days, or they go, they share, you come on Monday, I come on Tuesday. To some, it is not truancy. It is an actual reaction to the economic realities. So definitely you cannot divulge, the issues of poverty, unemployment, with rising insecurity. Different people, either from upbringing or from their moral training or from their religious training, we have different thresholds above which lack of money or lack of survival can push us into crime. Some people have very low threshold, some people have higher threshold. Some people also will still, absorb whatever suffering they have without going into crime. But different people have different, without excusing any criminal. But some people are committing crime out of basic lack of necessities of life.
Okay, Group Captain Shehu, let me leave Nigeria for a moment. Let's talk about the region. Okay, because Nigeria does not exist in isolation. The coup makers in Niger have now asked France to leave. And France has, at the last moment, had to, comply by removing their ambassador who had been, in custody and all of that. Now, but Nigeria is, as chairman of ECOWAS, interested in this. With the situation in Nigeria at 63, do you think Nigeria should even be bothering about what happens in Niger, what happens in Gabon, when we are already overstretched internally? As an intelligence officer, what do you think?
If you ask me on that, I will say Nigeria, by virtue, whether we like it or not, our geopolitics, whether it is population, whether it's the size of our economy, whether it is our earlier struggle for independent struggle of African countries, which our forefathers did in the 1960s, 1970s, and the 1980s, and given the fact that international politics is about regionalism or international cooperation, Nigeria cannot completely say it will pull itself out what is happening in other countries. However, as late, I think as 1990s, our diplomats have fashioned a model for Nigerian diplomacy or international relations, where they say the diplomatic terrain will inform what we do in West Africa, will inform what we do in Africa, will inform what we do in the whole world. What am I saying? Without Nigeria divesting itself, because there's a price for that, if we say we don't care what happens in the sub-region. But at the same time, it is mindful of the domestic dynamics. So Nigeria now, in this difficult time, is saddled with the leadership of ECOWAS. It cannot abandon that responsibility. But at the same time, whatever we are doing, we should also look at what is Nigeria's national interest. This is a theory of realism in international relations. Whatever you do, either in support of any other country or any international organization, what informs your action is your own national interest. So for President Tinubu and our policymakers, they have a very tough decision, because the truth is that sometimes the interest of ECOWAS or the interest of our African Union or the interest of other international stakeholders may not coincide with the national interest of Nigeria, where there is no correlation between Nigeria's interest and the interest of other people. Nigeria and President Tinubu must stick with national interest. So it is a balancing act. What can we do as members of ECOWAS, as chair of ECOWAS, as responsible members of the international community, without hurting national interest?
Well, on that note, Group Captain Sadeeq Shehu, I cannot agree with you more. You cannot be more correct, as Professor Akintenewa will later tell us on this program. Thank you very much indeed for joining us on This Day Live, the Sunday talk show, on this special occasion of Nigeria at 63.